Good evening, London, or good morning if you're in the States like I am right now, or good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. My name's Hina, and I am coming to you from the Master Shah Dow Center in London remotely. So today's Facebook Live is going to be very, very interesting because I have a very unique and special guest. Shraddha Shuddle is an A&E doctor who works in Bristol, the United Kingdom, and I thought she learned to open her spiritual channels with the Master Shah Dow Center. But what really happens is it's very interesting. So Shraddha, why don't you come on and let us know your story?
Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
Shraddha.
Hello, hello,
Thank
hello. Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited and delighted to share my story. Um, so yes, until I actually started doing different spiritual practices, I didn't know it's called opening your spiritual channels or clairvoyance, as people do say it. Um, but throughout my medical career, there's one incident that really stands out. I was on a night shift, and this is way back in Mumbai in King Edward Memorial Hospital. It's the biggest and the most well-renowned educational institution in Mumbai. So I was on one of my night shifts, and I was really knackered, and I went to catch some wings. And what I saw is that my soul, we have astral travel, which happens in the night, and at that time, my soul was traveling, and my soul was then wanting to come back in my physical body. And I could see this entity which was really fighting and stopping me from coming back into my physical body. And it was quite relentless, and I could see these, like really scary images. And my soul was really struggling to actually come back to my physical body. And I knew that if my soul wouldn't come back to my physical body, that's it. Eventually I willed, and there was um quite a significant fight that went on, but I did come back into my body. But the next several days was quite tough for me, because I almost behaved as if I was another person. Like, my habits had completely changed. I used to think about drinking all the time, and I was a teetotaler then. And I could see like how my behavior had changed, like the clothes I was wearing was changed. And it took ongoing spiritual practices for me to actually come out of it. um with my background, I decided to do medicine because it was my dad's wish. And when he died unexpectedly, I decided I wanted to do this for him. But since the age of 16, I have been exploring different spiritual schools and practices and meditation, and each of them have actually helped me with where I am with my spiritual, opening my spiritual channels. It's just to know that when our vibrations are a bit on the lower side, we see things and we hear things, but they're not full of light and love. As we progress through our purification journey, as we grow, and we understand the significance, and we sort of start aligning with our soul, heart, mind, and body, that's how our channels become stronger. And they also start, as we raise our vibrations, what we see, what we hear, changes into more beautiful images.
Oh, well, that's a very exciting introduction. So that's amazing. That's an amazing story. And it's very interesting also because it is true that many people are born with open spiritual channels and the majority close, but yours stayed open. And being a medical doctor, it's really fascinating to me that you were already so spiritual at such a young age, but I guess because your channels were so open. Because I know for me, it really took a little bit of convincing before I was like, what? I have a third eye? What? I have open spiritual channels? Really? So that's just absolutely amazing. So when you were saying that you were researching different spiritual schools, what, in your opinion, do you find that that Master Sha's techniques and practices really help you, versus all these other spiritual schools that you were researching? Why are you sticking, or why are you complete, or you know that you're in the right place with the practices of Master Sha?
That is a lovely question. And so up until meeting Master Shah, with different schools, it's like every time I would learn something different, I would learn something new, and sort of adding into my armor of things. But I would always wonder, especially when in A&E people have traumas and accidents and they'd come in, and you have this classic history at times that, oh, the driver was absolutely fine, but the passengers like killed, and there were other people in the back of the car who then was severely injured. And it was always this question, like, I obviously, being from the Hindu background, we talk about karma, we talk about life after death, and we know that part of what we are going through is this. But with Master Shah, what I realize is that not just the understanding of karma, but there is a real possibility to actually transform it in our tangible world. And I think that is the beauty, that is the magnanimity of Master Shah. And he is a true spiritual teacher. Like, I haven't yet met any teacher who could just transform your life like that.
Hmm. Yes. So basically, it is the wisdom, the techniques, and the results of Dr. and Master Ji Shah that have you pretty firm in that this is the place to open and continue to widen and strengthen your spiritual channels. So, can you describe to me how these practices have developed your spiritual channels versus before, when you were already seeing and having these spiritual experiences, versus now? Like, how have your channels widened or opened? And other than seeing more beautiful and higher vibration things, how else have you noticed that your spiritual channels have developed?
So, um, one of the things that have always affected me is, like, when I see things, they stay in my memory, and they affect me in a not good way. And also, I used to be a bit scared, like, what am I going to see? What's going to happen? Or sometimes it's almost like what the other person is coming from, what's going to happen, and that really is helpful. And I remember when I had my first consultation and reading, and it was so clear. And at that point, I decided that I want to get this clarity to make these decisions, these clear decisions in my life, when I'm all by myself in the middle of the night and I have to make these decisions, not just in my personal life, but also like at work. And like, it's just relentless. Everyone needs clarity of making a decision. So that was the most important thing. Now, how these practices that Master Shah has developed, especially with the foundation practices, it's made me really grounded. And I am almost certain that whatever I see, I need to see it, because that's going to help me with my next step in my life, whether it's personal, whether it's professional. And um, I did my opening spiritual channels in Jan 2020 at the London retreat. And initially it can be quite overwhelming, but then as you sort of grow in your practices and you're consistent in your practices, which is the most important sort of pillar of actually growing and evolving in your spiritual channels, you tend to understand that you also get these abilities to handle things. And there are different forms. It's not, I think everyone is very fascinated with like seeing images, but when you directly hear things, when you intuitively know things, these are all aspects of spiritual channels. Or a song that you hear, what is actually telling you. Or there's a cat that's crossed your street and it's a black cat, what does that mean? Like, not just like, it helps you take off your sort of pre-assumptions, your beliefs, what you've grown up, what society has fed you. I'd like to give an example, if that's okay. So my mom lives in Mumbai, my sister lives with her, and this is October 2020. I had such a clear message that my sister must do her Dao hands. And I saw this image where my mother had fallen on the floor and she was vomiting, she was clutching her heart, and it was clearly that she's going to have a heart attack. And the message was for me that in these next 3 months, this is going to be really difficult. You won't have any time to speak with them throughout the month of December. So I obviously heeded the message. I made sure my sister received a Dao hands and she was practicing. My mom's a Dao hands practitioner. She was practicing. And she had some hiccups like with the health throughout those months, but we were able to fine tune them. And I was like sending her blessings. We're getting some further blessings for her heart. And in December, for the first time, I was working all days, including the weekends, and I was teaching on the weekends, so I had no time. But I was I was able to heed that message, and she was saved from a heart attack that year. So that was very significant. It's there's no time, there's no space.
Mhm.
Very grateful for these messages.
That's amazing. Can you give me another example of how you use your open spiritual channels in your work life? Because you work in the A&E, so I bet that must come really handy when you have to make like quick, in the moment decisions. Because that literally can, in the emergency room, can save someone's life. So do you utilize them at work, and if so, how? Do you have any interesting stories for us?
Confidentiality, but at work
No
there's
names.
no at work there is like AD is always busy, it's relentless, and things happen all the time. So I can't really sit there and start, chanting my mantras, or start praying. That doesn't happen. But what happens is the direct knowing, like you intuitively know what to do. And also sometimes people come in with a different complaint, and you look at them, you examine them, and I am so clear that this is not the cause. I like, it's almost like within you, you're like, obviously I'm doing all the medical stuff, but it's almost like this clear guidance that look deeper, or it's probably B and not A. So it has really, really, really helped me in that way. uh, but sometimes it's not just with the patients, it's also with like my colleagues, because it's quite multidisciplinary team, like throughout the hospital, and things can go wrong, and people are tired, things don't happen at the same time, and it helps you to step back and see why things are not happening and how can you improve them, which I think if it wasn't for all the practices and all the sort of peripheral inputs that you get from your open spiritual channels, you would not, at least I'm very grateful that I have all the inputs to make a decision.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that also because yeah, it's interesting because as you see patients throughout the day, we have our human analytical mind and then I honestly I think many health professionals have developed some sort of channel or intuitive ability that we kind of already know from the beginning, like okay, this is what it's going to be, but we still do the 3D stuff to kind of confirm, okay, this is what it is, and what to do, what's best for the patient. So
um
that's and it's
Thanks,
good.
Hina. I can give you an example, a story. I just wanted to make sure that this is all right for me to speak, and I do get a yes, but I will tailor make it for this platform. Couple of years ago, there was a 90-year-old, some elderly gentleman who was brought in by the ambulance, unconscious for about an hour's time. And normally, when we don't have a do not resuscitate form, we want to resuscitate, the cardiac arrest and things like that. But when I was examining him and taking the history, the handover from the ambulance crew, the answer was very clear. His soul is like, I am happy, I want to go. At that
Mm.
time, it's like I was in a very different frame of mind than what I am today. And
Mhm.
it's like, how do I tell this to my consultant? How do I not go ahead and do the CPR and be sort of authentic, but also like follow my protocols, you know? So I examined him. I went to my consultant. We had and I prayed. I prayed that give me the strength and whatever is the best for this particular soul, for this particular person, his family, that should manifest. That situation should occur. And my consultant just said, "What do you think?" And I said to him, "Well, I think he's got a couple of comorbidities, but otherwise he was hell and hearty. He's been unconscious for an hour. It would not probably help us. We could try, but probably it would not be in his best interest." And we went through a lot of sort of medical protocols and sort of guidelines, and then we eventually decided not to. And we still sort of we didn't do the CPR, but we did everything else to sort of revive and keep him. And eventually, when his daughter came in, we decided that this would be more palliative, and then he was admitted for dignified death. But I remember having so much peace because doing the right thing in the midst of things and making sure that your team where you can't say no to your seniors, and then a few days later when he passed away, perhaps I did receive a big letter from his daughter for respecting his wishes and for doing everything that was in his best interest. So that was really heart touching. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. So thank you so much, Shraddha. Thank you for sharing your story. I think there were so many good points just listening to you. And one thing I do want to highlight is I've known Shraddha since she entered the Master Shah Dao Center. And I have to say, the progress and the way that you express and decipher the spiritual images has just grown so beautifully. Because I do remember when you were talking about your mother receiving a special blessing, and you saw like all these like saint doctors operating on her, and this, and I'm just like, wow, that's amazing. Like it's just amazing. And whenever you speak, you do your soul readings, it is just really profound to listen to you. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for really being out there, because it's open spiritual channels are so important for everybody. It doesn't matter your profession, but you can basically use it in your profession, doesn't matter what it is, in your family life, in your work life. As you heard Shraddha say, she even got like a message about her mom's possible heart attack unless her sister got Tao healing hands. So you have many stories, Shraddha. It's amazing, and thank you so much for sharing. You are an inspiration, because like these messages are like super important and big, that I think all of us, if we really work on honing our spiritual channels, I'm sure all of us would appreciate and love having them. So, Shraddha, before we log off, do you have any closing words?
Closing words. I'm really, really glad that I went to the journey of opening spiritual channels. And when I received my reading from David, I had decided I want to do this for myself. So over 2 years now, I'm a certified Tao Soul communicator. And I just want to say this to everyone from my heart and soul that in life we have to make tough decisions, and often we don't have the time, we don't have the resources, and we don't want to live with regrets that would have, should have, could have, what, like, especially with our loved ones, and things which are quite significantly important, like whether it's your friendships, your relationships, your finances or financial decisions. Having this wisdom and having this clarity to make these decisions, what to do, when to do, or when not to do, is profound. And if you could do this for yourself, for your loved ones, it I won't say it makes your life easier. It just helps you to handle things better, and almost like knowing that, okay, this is the worst, but I can get through this. There is hope. So that would be my sort of last words. And I wish that everyone who can, please come and join the Open Spiritual Channels happening at the end of this month. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Shraddha. Thank you so much. So the Master Shah Dow Center in London is having their famous 5-day retreat, Open Spiritual Channels, which is going to be July 29th to August 2nd. And there's the link, thank you so much, where you can find out more. This Open Spiritual Channels is going to be super special because for the first time in over 2 years, we are having part of the workshop in person. So Saturday and Sunday will be in person, and the other 3 days will continue to be online, or you can do all 5 days online. So it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful workshop. If you can make it in person, I highly encourage you do so, even though it's only 2 days. But those 2 days are going to be very, very powerful. So also included in the Open Spiritual Channels workshop, of course, there are going to be recordings for 2 weeks. There'll be 1 Tao light transmission for an organ, system, body part, or health condition. There'll be 5 Tao calligraphy healing field sessions included, 1 divine sacred drum blessing, and 1 divine sacred gong blessing. So you are going to be getting more than you even think, more than you bargained for at this Open Spiritual Channels workshop. If you listen to Shraddha's story and her open channels, the world is a lot bigger than what we think. It's just, do we have the tools? Do we have the ability to see the vastness of what is in the universe? Right now, I will openly say, if you do not have, or you haven't opened your spiritual channels enough where you're getting messages, where you're living every day on your best form, you are living a very limited life. This may be a real surprise to new people who are hearing this for the first time. But if you've ever had a gut feeling, an intuition, a knowing, that is part of spiritual channels. But the Master Shah Dow Center in London, their top teachers, they guide us, they teach us in how to really have a strong foundation where there is no question where you're receiving these messages from, and even guidance in what to do in your everyday life. You will also have a very unique opportunity to get a very high level spiritual guide if you choose to. The Open Spiritual Channels workshop is not one that is like any other. It's very focused on concentrated in opening, widening, purifying your channels, or in other words, making it more accurate so you get very accurate messages. So the entire workshop, the entire field that is being opened is focused on this. So if you already have open spiritual channels, this is definitely for you because it'll help you widen your channel and able to receive messages from a higher level. So the messages that you receive will be a lot more accurate, probably save you a lot more grief if you really hone in and listen. And you also get the amazing opportunity to get a very high level spiritual guide. And then you can widen your team. If you don't already have open spiritual channels, well, this workshop is definitely for you because this is where you learn how. You probably already have some bit of open channels, but this one will really widen it, where you're not doubting or trusting where the information is coming from and which information to actually listen to. So I thank all of you for joining us. I thank our guest, Shraddha. So thank you to everyone who's listening and watching. Please make some comments. Please share this video. Share this video to anyone who you think might be interested in opening or widening their spiritual channels. If they're interested in getting more deeper into their spiritual journey, into developing the skill of receiving messages. And basically, everyone needs open spiritual channels because the world we live in today is full of information, but you only want the most positive information to help you get the successes in life that you're looking for. So I thank you so much. Please join our open spiritual channels. You have the links, and I will see you next Wednesday. Thank you and goodbye.